Welcome, welcome, welcome to this podcast. As promised, this is your host AC with Anonymous Christian. Um, I will continue to dive into what I was going to say next, and I'm gonna say it right. I'm just gonna go straight to it. If you are one of the people that have potentially said, "God, I repent for hurting you, but I do not repent for the thing that I did because the thing that I did is giving me pleasure," you're not the only one. I've been there. I remember the last time I fell into temptation and I did end up having sex with this gentleman. Um, I went straight to the closet and I started to pray and cry. And I was like, God, I do not regret having sex with him, but I regret hurting you. What is going on? And I think that doing, and when we do that, we're being honest and raw with God. But at the same time, how do we stop it? Well, we need to ask Him to give us the conviction to stop that. We need to confess, maybe to one person as well, because there's freedom with that. But confess also to yourself, I am weak. And confess it to God. Confess it. Yes, you're probably the many that says, I've already done that several times, but have you allowed Him to redeem you in that end? It's not going to happen overnight. It's a healing journey. But how? How do we get there? We have to ask for conviction. God, give us the conviction. Remember, the Bible states that when we are weak, He is strong. Confess the things that you want. I had to get to a point where I prayed and I was like, God, I want sex. I want it. And I want it with my husband. But because I want sex and I want it with my husband and it hasn't happened, I fear that I am in a place, I'm putting myself in situations where I could potentially have sex with the wrong people. I am weak in this area. I need you to hold me. I need you to help me. I need you to come here and take this and help me do something in between that. Show me the signs of where or what is leading me up to this dopamine. If it's masturbation, there are signs that come before that. Catch yourself in those signs and then run. As soon as you see those signs, run to God. Okay, walk me through this, God. Help me through this because I'm starting to sense this and this and this. How do I choose the right thing? You have to self-reflect. And if you can afford it, I highly recommend getting therapy, but by the right people. It has to be the right people. It has to be the people where you're not going to be embarrassed to sit there and say, I am having problems in this area. I struggle with masturbation. I struggle with sex, fornication, sex outside of marriage. I keep running to this person, even though I know that person is not good for me. But because my flesh is so weak and that's what I want at the moment, I go ahead and do it. But if you cannot afford those things, then I urge you, follow the signs. There's always signs. And I'm going to tell you this, stress is a huge factor. And then this young lady asked me, what do you do to stay entertained in your waiting, right? Like, what do you do to keep yourself from doing these things? Well, I don't have the perfect answer to that because as I mentioned, I fell at one point. But I do have an advice. Do the things that you said you've been waiting to do with your partner, your life partner, or perhaps as I mentioned in my last podcast, with your friend. Do those things. Stop waiting. And I found myself that as I started to do those things and I stopped waiting, I began to be grateful. As I saw myself in Paris last year, and I remember staring at the Eiffel Tower, this symbol of love that everyone has, believed Paris to be, right? And romantic, what the Eiffel Tower um, signifies, right? And if you ever been there, you're gonna see so many vendors outside selling not just love stuff, but selling gadgets and stuff for the Eiffel Tower, and it's so romanticized. And as I sat there, I had an entire moment with God, and I was just like, I'm so grateful. The more I started doing the things that I have been waiting for the right person to come along to go do with, the more I started to fall in love with God, and I realized how much He's been my provider in the process of it and been doing these things. Now, it gets tricky because if you start to do those things, but you think you're doing it on your own account, and not because God is allowing you to do this stuff because of His grace and mercy, then at that point, you can become a victim of vanity. But the more I find, at least for me, the more I find myself doing the things that I've been waiting to do, the more I realize how much God has bestowed on me, and the more I've fallen in love with the joys of life. As I mentioned to you guys in my earlier podcast, I'm still in the middle of traveling, so this is all in one stream. Oh God, there's so much revelation in just this trip. And during my traveling, I've had the honor to stay in a really, really nice hotel. Um, it's actually in Baton Rouge. I will mention the name. The name of the hotel is Watermark. Beautiful. It used to be a bank. They preserved the historic figurines and sculptures and even frames that from the bank, and they're still showing it in the hotel. As soon as you walk in through the lobby, it's really nice to see how preserved it's been. And then the vault, what used to be the big vault back in, I believe it was in 1842, is now a wine cellar. But you can still see the concrete and the metal of what it takes to be a vault. My point of telling you this is because I was able to gaze at the beauty of this stuff, and I do not take it for granted because I know that God has allowed me to do that. There's not a lot of people that can say I road trip and I stay in really nice hotels in the process of it. Most of the time, you see people pull over and rest and then keep it going. And I have that blessing. Therefore, I have to stop. And even if it's you, be grateful that you were able to pull over and have a car where you can rest in. As you're going through your journey, you're gonna find beauty in it. I promise. I'll talk more about this on my next podcast. My time is up. Again, this is AC with Anonymous Christian. Love you guys, and until next time, bye.